Changes ahead for the airport rotary in Hyannis. We've got details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Thursday, January 31st, 2013. I'm Sarah Colvin. Last week, the Hyannis Access Study Implementation Task Force approved its recommended design for change at the airport rotary. Glenn Cannon is the Technical Services Director for the Cape Cod Commission. He gave us the details as well as a little bit of history on the task force.
I go further back to 2008. There was a Hyannis Access Study conducted at that time. It was a wide, sweeping look at really the town of Barnstable and access into Hyannis. And I think they made a critical decision at that time that they were going to look from Hyannis out as opposed to looking from Route 6 in. Unfortunately, they spent a lot of time doing that, and I think it took up some of their resources, so they weren't able to complete that study the way we normally would. They had looked at replacing the airport rotary with one of four different concepts: a single traffic signal, a dual traffic signal, or two underpass options with roundabouts on top. They also recognized that Yarmouth Road needed to take another look at the corridor of Yarmouth Road. Again, they weren't able to complete that. They asked the Cape Cod Commission to pick that up at that time in 2008. We completed the Yarmouth Road corridor study. We went back to the town of Barnstable and said, well, we've done our work. What do you want us to do now? At that time, they had a plan for Route 28 in between the airport rotary and Yarmouth Road that they weren't comfortable with. So they wanted us to take another look at that, and then they wanted us to finalize the four concepts, get it down to one concept at the airport rotary. So we did undertake that. Unfortunately, we were delayed by a lawsuit between a project that was before the Cape Cod Commission, the Barnstable Municipal Airport, and in a butter. That put us back about a year and a half. But we got back on track back in 2012, and we were able to just finalize that process.
Absolutely, and so that really got revived and not too terribly long ago, and there were a number of different options for change on the table, as you mentioned, whether it's a signaled intersection, a complete elimination of the rotary, a change to a roundabout. But as the group met recently, it did come to a decision of Concept F. So tell me a little bit about Concept F. What are we looking at here?
Correct. There were a number of alternatives the task force needed to take a look at, and they went through them painstakingly. We reviewed each of them, with a criteria for each project to make sure that they all lined up, and you could compare them against one another. The project they chose was Concept F, and it is a project that begins, if you will, at Route 132 at the Cape Cod Mall traffic light, goes down through the airport rotary, all the way to Yarmouth Road, and then I would say heads north up Yarmouth Road all the way up to exit 7. In addition to that, we also looked at the short section of Route 28 in between the airport rotary and the back entrance to the Cape Cod Mall, because that section of Route 28 hadn't been addressed also, and that was something the town was interested in. So it's a 4-lane cross section on Route 132 with a raised median. And then as you drive down Route 132, you would be able to go into the underpass, go underneath a roundabout, replacing the airport rotary, and then come back up out of the underpass onto Route 28, like say east of the airport rotary, and then continue on to Yarmouth Road.
Exactly, and when we had an image up there on the screen, Kev, if you can bring that image up once more, again, really just kind of showing that description. As we can see on the screen, we've got the roundabout, which would replace the airport road. Then you can kind of see how you would go from Route 28 to Route 132, or 132 from 28 underneath. But how much of how large is that going to be? I mean, I think this is going to be kind of a massive undertaking in terms of how big it's going to be. So can you give us a little bit more of a picture of what we're talking about in terms of this underpass? Sure.
It really isn't going to be all that large. If you think of Finney's Lane going under Route 6, it's a kind of a simple underpass. It is technically it's grade separation because the roadways are separated from one another. But when I first began the project, I did describe it as a tunnel going underneath. But I don't think that's fair. I think a tunnel gives you an appearance that you're going to be underground for some period of time. I just don't see it that way. It's a very compact underpass. You see them mostly in urban centers, like you are. As you get into Hyannis, you're getting into the urban hub of Cape Cod. So it's very compact, and it will be grade separation, but you won't be. I don't think you'll have that feeling that you're underground like a tunnel.
Exactly, because it is such a short, pass between the two roads. But it is, I would assume, something that larger, maybe tractor-trailer trucks that utilize that road will be able to pass through easily.
Correct, and that's one of the things. It does have to be designed for tractor-trailer trucks, so they have the clearance to be able to get underneath the roundabout on top. But it is also, it is very much developed area, so it has to be very compact, so we don't have significant impacts to the surrounding landowners here. I found it very interesting when we first got into this project. If you look at the alternatives, the grade separation here, the roundabout on top with the underpass, actually had less land takings than either the traffic signal or the dual traffic signals, which had significant land takings.
Exactly, and that's something that we talked about the last time you were here on the show, was some of those options that did have significant land takings. Now, as we talk about this concept F, obviously you say significantly less. Are there any land takings that are involved in this particular concept?
There are some minor land takings along the, I want to say it's the southeast corner of Barnstable Road and Route 28. So there are some minor land takings there. But like I say, significantly less than the single traffic signal, the at-grade traffic signal, which what really has happened is to get that traffic signal to work properly, you had to have so many travel lanes. It was just very wide, and that pushed you into the abutting properties where you have the roundabout on top, which is a very compact circle, and then with the grade separation, you have significant capacity there in a very limited land footprint.
Indeed. So now that the task force has said, yes, this is the design we want to move forward on, what happens now, I guess? What's the next step? Obviously, we're talking about a project that could cost upwards of $50 million, which is definitely a large price tag. So how do we get from where we are now to when we are driving our cars underneath a roundabout near the airport?
Correct, Sarah. And the next step is the most significant of all the steps. And I made this clear as I went out with my presentations to various boards and committees. Once we have that preferred alternative, and we are sure that's what we want to move forward with, we want to start looking at funding. And we're going to have to go up to Boston and talk to MassDOT and right up to the state capitol to secure that type of funding. I was very pleased to see in the governor's plan for future transportation projects, Yarmouth Road at that time was identified as one of their projects in need of funding. Now, like I say, unfortunately, the Hyannis Access Study was not completed because of that lawsuit, or I feel as though the Hyannis Access Study implementation would have been outlined in his plan. I think that's an encouraging sign for this region because it identifies that the state has accepted this plan and that they're ready to move it forward. That's one of the biggest obstacles. Money is a big obstacle, but to make sure you have the buy-in from MassDOT is a significant step.
Exactly. So in terms of timeline, I mean, obviously there's really no crystal ball to say, when we will, if we do get money for this project. But kind of in the ideal world, best case scenario, how soon do you see this project getting underway?
The way I describe it is, I always describe it as 5 years from the day we have funding. And I think that's 2 years of design and then a 3-year construction period. So again, the funding source and when we can identify that funding is the most significant step in that process, but it will be a few years before it's actually implemented.
The group is now placing its focus on finding funding. It's anticipated no work will be done for at least another 5 years. You can view plans and learn more online at capecodcommission.org. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.